Hello, Jim Steam Clown here. Hey, so this is the first session, the mentor session I'm doing at my school, Silicon Valley CT, and this is going to be about quizzes and um, how I do quizzes and some tips and tricks and things like that on how to do some quizzes, stuff like that. So here we go. Number one, and I got a big list of things that I'm gonna talk about, but 15 minutes. Ready? Go. All right. So number one, come talk to me if you've got any questions about creating your free for teacher account in Canvas, because I recommend that every teacher here creates their free for teacher account, and that's just with a personal email, and it's free, and you basically have access to Canvas. There's some limitation. I think there's some size limitations and stuff like that, but it lets you create your classes. And what I've done actually is I've gone and created like modules, but I've created them as classes. And so, for example, I've got a career readiness section. I do a LinkedIn module, so I do LinkedIn. So I got a whole class. It's LinkedIn, ACDC circuits, digital logic, right? C++ coding, Python coding, right? So the idea here is that I create a class that is specific to a module in my class, right? And that way I can just kind of keep things kind of organized and compartmentalized and use them. And here's the thing: I can take these classes, I can take them, and I can share them to Commons, and then I can import them into my my school classroom, right? And so I can take these classes, I can bring them into one class, right? So I can take multiple of these classes and bring them into my Mechatronics class here at Silicon Valley CTE. And so it just gives you an ability to create all of your material in a place that you control and you have access to, and you have source control. You're not going to lose it. Somebody IT is not going to delete this, right? The only thing that's going to happen is if zombie apocalypse happens, Google goes down, then you don't have access to your Canvas and stuff like that. But I'm pretty confident that's not going to happen. All right, so that's number one. But let's talk about quizzes and some just general stuff about quizzes. And so if we go into any of these classes, so for example, if I go into so I'm in basically my digital logic class, right? And here's a quiz that I have where I've got three different types of questions set up. I've got the standard multiple choice question. Those are easy. You just create multiple choice questions and make sure you've got the right answer, right? A lot of times, the first time I've been doing a quiz, a lot of times after the students have taken it, if somebody goes, "Oh, I don't think this answer is right," I give them actually extra credit points when they think that a question is wrong, and they're like, I know this is the right answer, and it's not letting me do it, right? I get them to tell me if I've made a quiz wrong. So that's tip number one: get your students to correct your quizzes for you when you've made a mistake in that quiz, and so you can go fix that. The second one is basically, I've created a little table structure here, and this is like a truth table, right? I can, the idea here is they're going to look at this table here, this diagram, and this is just an imported image. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second as well. This is an imported image, and so I've imported an image into my question, and then I can ask questions about it. So here I've kind of built a little table to do that. Let's see if I want to go. Let me go edit this. Edit this quiz. We'll go to the questions. There's this one. Oh, okay. So how I did this was in the details of the question, I actually have that picture there, right? So I brought a picture in that lets me explain something with diagrams and tables and charts, and you can bring all that stuff in to the details of your question, and then you can have questions that ask about that. And typically, what I'll do when I have questions set up where I bring a bunch of information in, I want them to look at a bunch of information, compare, contrast, those kinds of things. Then what I do is I make the quiz where they can see all the questions. Um, and you'll notice in Canvas when if you set it to be one question at a time, it still shows you that whole big, you know, the 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 details section that stays at the top, and then the one question, then the next question, the next question. So just decide how you do your questions. I'm kind of agnostic. Some quizzes I actually want them to see one at a time because I really want them to focus on just one question. Other times I'll just let them see all the questions. They can just scroll down and click through. And I'm not really, yeah, I don't really have a preference either way. Um, and so the next thing I wanted to talk about, right? Oh, okay, and then I have the question, right? And I have this question. This one, I set this up as like a table. I created a table, and I was able to put information into the columns of the table, and then I can put the actual question into this table. And the way this worked was, um, this is a multi question, and I can actually set these up so that I can have different values in this multi part question, and I can set them up as right answers. I can set them all up as correct answers, and so they have to basically fill out every one of them and make sure they're right. So that's kind of an interesting trick. Talk to me later if you want to know more on how to do these fill in multiple blanks, things like that. What's really cool is that, for example, if we go to a quiz and I want to do a question, let's see, come on, Canvas, you can do it. Canvas is getting really, really, really slow. All right, I'll come back to that. Yeah, I guess. Okay, so you come in here, and let's say I was going to create a quiz. Now, here's the thing: you're going to create quizzes, and you may have 10 multiple choice questions that you're going to put together in a quiz, and you could come in here, say into your modules, and say, oh, I'm going to create a new quiz, and in the modules, right, you come in here, and let's say I'm right here, I'm going to create a new quiz. Create a new quiz, and there it is, and I name the quiz test, and then I can put it into whatever group that I want. So let's put that in academic, and I usually do indent them because I have them underneath stuff, and bam, create this quiz, right? So at the bottom, here's this test quiz that I just created, right? So now I'm going and edit this quiz, and this is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go do a quiz, and here's instructions for the quiz, and you have a bunch of stuff there, and then you come in and you do your questions, and you go, okay, I'm going to do a new question. Tip number 1: see where this says question and it's highlighted. Always put a title to this, right? This is like tips number 1, or digital logic gates number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, right? Always do that, and let me tell you. Let me show you why you'll want to do that. And then you can come in and have a question, right? So say you can have it be multiple choice questions, true and false, fill in the blanks. I like multiple choice, right? True, false, because they self grade. Fill in the blanks are a little bit trickier, but but still good because you can actually put in a number of possible right answers. So that doesn't have to be exactly capital the way you said it or whatever. You can do that. Multiple answer are pretty good because you can actually have things that are multiple answers, but they actually, in the way that quiz works, that question works, is that if there are two answers that are right, they actually have to get both answers that are right. Um, Otherwise, they miss points. Um, Matching is another one that I kind of like. And the way this works is that you have all the matching stuff on one side. So uh, definition stuff, right? So phlebotomy and all the phlebotomy, some phlebotomy terms and their definition on this side, right? And you can also come in and put in additional values here, that are, throw them off. So you can have, four things or five things here and four or five matches here, so that the actual matches, the correct matches, and then you can put in additional ones so that then they have to like really pick, and then they have to, it's not going to be a one for one match. There's going to be extra things, and so they're going to have to think: is it this or this, right? So I like those kind of questions. They take a little bit of work to build, but then they're good to go. You got that question. Now, here's the thing, though. Let's go turn this back into a multiple choice, or let's turn it into true false. Was this fun? Question mark. And then you come down and do true and false. Now, what I also do is you've got this option down here, these little boxes, right? Check to enter comments for a correct answer. So if they answer correctly, then you can give them more information about why it's correct. And then here it's like click to enter for wrong answers. And there again, you can put some information in there to help kind of coach them into like why they got it wrong and what might be a better answer, why that answer is wrong, right? So not only did they just take the quiz and they answered it incorrectly, you have another opportunity here to kind of teach them, right? So I always put something in here. I really try to do that. I always put something into these right or wrong sections. And sometimes I just put the right answer explanation in both, right? So whether they get it right or wrong, they see the why of the answer. So I put stuff into there. All right. Now, here's the thing. We just created this question and we've got details, and I'm going to go, save this question and this quiz, and now this quiz is saved, right? So now you have this quiz, but here's the thing. That question, it kind of only exists for this quiz. And you might go, oh, well, you know what? I want to use that definitions thing later on a different quiz, or I want to mix and match things from different quizzes and bring them together in a final quiz, something like that. And so here's the other thing that you want to be able to do, and this is why you always label your questions. All right. So if I go back to quizzes, and instead of opening up a quiz, right? Okay, gosh, it's so slow. I'm not sure what's going on here. There we go. You come up here, and so instead of clicking, new quiz and starting a quiz or selecting a quiz, right? Then you can actually go over here and you can click on this link and it shows you quiz banks. All right, quiz banks, manage quiz banks. Now, I got a whole bunch here because this is kind of all the quiz banks from all the classes and everything that I merged into my thing. So there's a lot of things here. I usually wouldn't have this many for a particular module. But what this allows me to do is actually have a quiz bank that I can organize my questions into. And so, every year I have a student survey, and in the student survey, I have have a bunch of questions. First name, last name. Provide an email. What do you want me to call you? Alternate first name. That stuff like that, right? Well, this is in a quiz bank, and I can actually pull this up into any quiz that I want. And so, for example, if we go back to that quiz that we just created, come on. So our little test quiz, right? I can go to the test quiz, I can go edit this quiz, I can go to questions, and instead of doing a new question, what did my question not show up? I must not have saved that question. Dang it. All right. I come to my questions, and instead of doing a new question, I can go find questions. And now I can actually go look at all of my quiz banks, and I can pull a question, out of that. So, like, if I went to, let's pick a, Ohm's law, right? My Ohm's law questions. There's 20 questions in here, and they're all in here, and I named them. See how I named them? I named them all. So now I've got a question here, and you can even make these a little more descriptive, right? But me, for example, it's just like Ohm's law. These are all Ohm's law questions, and now I can go pick these first three, right? Or this one here too, right? And I go add questions. And now all of those questions in that quiz bank that I just selected, they just showed up in my my quiz. So now when I save this, right, now I've got a quiz that has those in there, and I can pull questions from any quiz bank that I want. All right, so not taking too much time. Let's go through some real quick tips right here. You know what? I'm gonna make a second video, which is just all on tips that I have. All right, questions? Ask me questions about creating better quizzes. Bye.